Following on from last week's video, we'd spend a few days chasing sunrises and sunsets from different vantage points across the city of Havana. Getting around the city and Cuba in general in 2025 isn't easy. Hiring cars is expensive and fuel supply is unpredictable. It's not for the faint-hearted. Luckily, we had a great team showing us the ropes, and after 4 weeks here, I'd become an expert at navigating the quirks and the cash challenges that come with travel in this Caribbean country. In this episode, I'll be heading back to a spot south of the city of Havana, a place well worth the time that I invested. 3 visits here, I felt despite the constant parties taking place, it was worth it overall. So welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are actually in an old yacht club on the coast here in Havana, Cuba. And actually, it should be fantastic. We've come at this time of day to try to capture it with a nice sunset behind the building over the sea, and that should happen. It's actually my 3rd visit here. The 2nd and 3rd time, it's been pretty noisy. It's basically a place where they do beach parties, it seems. In today's video, we're actually going to be talking about what makes architecture art. Like, what do I look for to actually make the image kind of more sellable, more arty? And I've come to a location on a repeat visit, actually, on my 3rd visit here, because it's noisy, it's loud. On the 2nd visit, it was noisier, louder, and at the wrong time of day, because it was bright, horrible sunlight. On my 1st visit, I came early in the morning, I got lucky, and I got what I think is more of an arty kind of shot. From exactly this position, actually, I actually captured a nice clean empty beach, the sea out the window, nice blue sky, lighting up the scene, light coming towards the camera's position. And you could improve on that by photographing a sunset out of this window. The issue I have is the beach. The beach isn't now going to be empty of people. And for that reason, the first photo is now the best one that I captured. So this is what we're talking about in today's video. What makes architecture art? Like, what makes architecture art? I've got 4 photos I want to get. And one of them I actually think is quite arty. So I've captured this and we're going to talk about it quickly. For this shot, I used my typical R5 setup with my 24mm tilt shift lens, raising the tripod as high as possible to bring more of the ocean into view. Here you can see the same spot photographed at different times of the day. The first image taken at sunset, which is often of course considered the good time, but I preferred the version shot in the daylight. The ocean and beach colours are just stronger and the light feels cleaner. I actually chose the portrait orientation though, because it adds depth. The shadows here lead the eye right through the frame, and this is the version that has made it into my portfolio. But the point for this video overall is that you're looking towards a scene that the viewer can feel familiar with, a beach scene. Is the time of day that you're at the spot complementing the architecture? What I mean by that, could you repeat visit it to make the shot more wow factor, prettier, nicer, and so on? Nicer lighting on the subject, nicer lighting behind the subject, or maybe there's something inside that comes alive with a certain time of day. So that's the first tip. Does the lighting complement the scene, and can it add to your image? And if so, can it make it more arty? So it's a question to you, really. Here we've come at the right time of day, soft light. The architecture in the foreground frames the view. The columns guide your eye towards the horizon. This kind of composition works because the structure gives scale and context, while the ocean opens up and provides contrast and space for the viewer to breathe. The weathered details in the stone add texture, balancing against the calm, almost pastel tones in the sky and water. It's a scene that feels suspended in time maybe, where the architecture becomes part of the story rather than just a subject. Is the perspective that you're doing kind of a certain level where it looks beautiful? In other words, what I mean is the framing, the architecture. Are you in the right part of the building that has that wow factor, has that pop, has maybe frescoes or beauty to it? Here I'm on a balcony and I've just photographed out towards the sea. And just by being on the balcony, it's automatically a little bit more romantic than it would be if it was, say, deep in the building in an unusual or kind of strange area which people don't relate to. Here you're looking out to the ocean. You've got these columns. It's almost like a vantage point. The sound and the noise from the beach will all disappear when the viewer's looking at the image. So that's the next thing. Is the position in the building you're shooting the romantic one? Is the subject or the image relatable? And what I mean by that is, it's often that people will just publish a photo of architecture and people can't relate to it that much. Like, they don't know where it is, it's not in relation to something, there's no context to it, and of course that means they can't really associate themselves with it, and that's a big problem. It's very important to make sure that the image you're capturing has a kind of appeal to the end user. So in other words, like, I find there's certain things that you can put into a subject, or into an image anyway, that make the user go, wow, yes, I can relate to that. And that instantly makes it more of a visual art piece. For example, right now I'm photographing outside of a window, and in the backdrop there is a church, and there's a palm tree, there's a beautiful scene, there's roads and trees, things that basically people can relate to on a daily basis. And because it's inside the architecture I'm shooting from and framing them subjects, that means that people can relate to it more, and when they relate to it more, it means it's more wow factor. It just generally happens that way. This one I'm quite happy with. Nice sky, nice vegetation, a nice frame, already a better image. Here the arch window does the framing. It pulls you straight to the palm tree and the tower in the distance, while the marks and the peeling paint add a sense of time and place. Shooting from inside keeps the viewer anchored into the building, yet opens up the view to the city beyond. I've done this technique across my portfolio, and you'll see many examples across my website. Let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to some other tips. The next thing that people relate to, one of the most important things, is actually colour. Can you get colour in your images? Can you make the viewer stop? If you shoot in someone's favourite colour, a scene, of course they're going to be more appealed to it. They're going to be more attracted to it. Colour's really important to make the viewer stop, stare and look at it and think, oh, I really like that. That's something I can relate to. Complementary colours, for example, can really help to draw your viewer into the image, and of course appeals more if it's complementary and helps each other. For example, red and green is a great one, or, as is this case here, blue and orange. Cinematic colours help the viewer kind of stop, stare and associate with the image more, and that makes the image, of course, also more arty. Of course, it depends what you want your final image to say. Keeping the framing here adds depth and a sense of journey through the arches, with the cooler cream and blue tones balancing the warmth beyond. Stepping forward here, you could remove the first arch, making the shot cleaner, more immersive, with bold orange walls and stronger colour, and maybe texture too. My approach here, though, tells a story about layers and rhythm. The other would be about colour. But of course it depends on what you have in a complete set, which leads me on to my next point. So another thing you can do to get arty results is to use the architecture that's available to you to create kind of beautiful images. So in other words, are there shapes, lines, patterns, compositions within the space that really open themselves up to really nice arty images and arty results? Don't be frightened of things like shadow, because shadow can help you draw the viewer's eye into the light parts of the image, for example. Doorways, framing, that all follows on from that complementary colour that we just mentioned a minute ago. Some buildings just make the composition easy. Here the arches and vertical lines, plus the blue, give the shot structure and rhythm. The textures and patterns guide your eye straight towards the light and the greenery at the far end. When the shapes are this strong, you just have to spot them and press the shutter button. Now, I know many of you watching aren't subscribed. Maybe Cuba has been popping up on your feed, or you've been following along with some of my photography trips. I don't often ask, but if you found something useful already, it would mean a lot if you hit subscribe. As a small channel, it's definitely going to keep me motivated to create more videos when I travel to places like this, sharing behind the scenes tips and taking you along on future shoots. Talking about future shoots, we'll be returning to Cuba in February 26. I'll be leading trips to Macedonia and the Balkans and Sicily this autumn, and I'll be talking about my new gear additions, including my new second camera body, the Canon R8, in future videos. You'll always see me trying to seek out spaces where nature is clawing back the architecture. In fact, on my website, you'll see a dedicated page now for exactly that, a whole portfolio section. And the reason why I always think that that goes with the arty feel is because actually the viewer can associate. They have plants in their homes, they have gardens, they have grass, they go for walks in parks, on beaches and more. And ultimately, I think that's what you're trying to do. You're actually trying to get the person to be more associated with your shot, to make them fall in love with your shot. And if they can associate with it, and there's an element of the scene that they can associate with, I think it can only help them. And that's what we're looking to do. So here I've just photographed exactly that. A scene being reclaimed by nature, clawing it out. But it can't just be any old placement. As you'll see in this image, it actually comes towards the viewer's eyes. It actually is a huge part of the framing. And you'll see that over on the portfolio page as well, that's recently been added. Look out for nature. There's one side tip for you. Here I had to boost our ISO very high to make sure it wasn't moving around in the wind, because of course it's an added element. You're trying to get sharp architecture, but of course you also want sharp vegetation. Boosting your ISO can really help you with that, especially in low light. Nature taking over a space can change how we read an image. Here, the bright green leaves are the first thing you notice, familiar and recognisable, before you take in the ornate arch and realise the building is then abandoned. That shift in perception adds depth to the story. In any abandoned structure, plants breaking through the walls or doorways create a connection between the viewer and the scene. It's a reminder that these places are often still alive in their own way, and that nature always finds a way to reclaim them. It tells a bigger story. So reflections can completely change an image, and you can see that here in this shot. But they're often one-off events, and you can't plan for them in the same way you can plan for, say, light or composition. Well, almost. For this shot, I happened to be in the right place at the right time. The night before, a tropical storm hit, leaving a layer of water across the floor of this abandoned club. That water turned the doorway into a perfect mirror, doubling the palm tree in the sky above, outside of course. But it's a reminder to always look out for opportunities that make the shot unique, because they could only last for minutes, hours, weeks or months. It's up to you to be in the right place at the right time. Okay, I think that is pretty much me for today. Second video from Cuba, and actually it's been a pleasure to walk around this site. Third visit, it's a lot quieter than it was before. The music's finally gone off, so it's a bit of peace and quiet, and the light has been fantastic as well. I hope you've enjoyed those tips, something to take away, and also I hope you've kind of enjoyed the series so far. Got any comments, leave them below. Until next time, when we start our road trip around Cuba with the group, I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.